It's the greatest thing that you would ever know. But to understand that God created you, it would not only open up the secrets to our existence, but it would take you on the path to reveal your exact purpose for your life. This notion takes us right back to the original creation story. What's up, guys? My name is Jeremy Tolbert. I'm the author of The Interest of Love Thoughts, and welcome to the Interest of Love podcast. Today I'm going to talk about the most important thing that you would ever know and explain why there is nothing in the universe that is more important to know than what I'm about to tell you. The Interest of Love podcast is an informative and knowledge-based show centered around the powerful message of this book. In these podcasts, I will delve into controversial and intriguing topics that will captivate your interest. And you can also purchase this book wherever books are sold and listen to the podcast on all major platforms. So let's begin. I am going to start by showing you a quick demonstration of how this wonderful message works. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and I want you to answer them to the best of your ability. And please pause this video as needed to give yourself time to answer each question as open and honestly as possible. Question 1. Can you recall the last time you was happy? And if so, when was it? And listen, this next step is very important. Try to recall the thoughts that were going through your mind in the moments when you felt happy. Question 2. When was the last time you felt loved? And what was the thoughts that led you to feel this way? Question 3. Have you ever gotten really angry at something or at someone? And if so, can you remember what caused you to get upset? And also try to recall the thoughts that you were thinking of that caused you to feel that way. Question 4, have you ever felt sad or depressed? And if so, what thoughts were you thinking of when you were feeling this way? Last question, according to the answer you gave, did you notice a pattern between the way that you thought and the way that you were feeling in those moments? Thoughts are everything. It is what controls how you act and react to everyone around you. Everything that you know and everything that you believe is all developed and controlled through the power of your thoughts. Let me ask you this question. Do you believe in God? After you get your response to this question, try to pay close attention to the thoughts that you were thinking that led to your answer. Let me ask you this final question. What do you think would have happened if your thoughts were totally opposite from the thought that you were experiencing when you felt those different ways? For example, in the moments when you were thinking of thoughts that made you feel disrespected, that caused you to get mad or upset, your thoughts were replaced with thoughts of concern for how the other person was feeling in that moment instead of the thoughts that you originally were experiencing. Do you think by changing those thoughts, it would have caused you to feel any differently than being mad or upset? The fact of the matter is, your thoughts control everything about you. And it not only controls what you believe, but it also controls what you feel. Happy people have happy thoughts. Angry people have angry thoughts. In the questions earlier, you should have noticed that the way that you was feeling was aligned perfectly according to the nature of your thoughts. For example, it would be impossible for a depressed person to feel depressed without having depressing thoughts. And this means to remain depressed, a person will have to persistently be continuously having depressing thoughts in order to stay that way. Now think of the dramatic change that would happen if a depressed person starts to have happy thoughts. It would cause them to feel the way that they think. And the amazing part of it is, they don't have to try to force themselves to be happy. It will happen automatically, with or without their permission or consent. Your whole reality and everything that you know is determined by the way that you think. And in order for me to supplement what you know, I must have to have the ability to change your way of thinking. Your whole life and everything that surrounds you is perceived through your thoughts. That's why so many of us live in our own reality, because no two people can think exactly the same. That's why some of us believe God exists while others do not. But controlling how you think is not only essential to controlling the way that you feel, but it is the key to also controlling what you believe to be true in your life as well. The most important thing that you would ever learn is that God created you. And I know that might not sound too surprising or like much to many people, but the truth of the matter is, it's the greatest thing that you would ever know. If you could comprehend what it means to not only know, but to understand that God created you, It would not only open up the secrets to our existence, but it would take you on the path to reveal your exact purpose for your life. So I wanted to show you in the first segment of the Interest of Love podcast, by using only the power of thoughts, how knowing and believing that God created you is the most important thing that you would ever know. But first, I have to begin by proving that the God of the Bible truly exists. So there are two main ways I want to prove that God exists, which I like to call the who and the how. The first way should be easier, simply because it was already established as common knowledge to know that a creator exists. In fact, ever since the Homo sapien era first began, humans naturally believed in a God, which later evolved into a God, and I learned through the study of sociology that the Industrial Revolution forever changed the way that people work. And that change created a new lifestyle that separated people farther from God than ever before. That led to the introduction of agnosticism, atheism, and several evolutionary theories in the mid-19th century. And this paved the way for the Big Bang Theory to also be established and accepted by the scientific world approximately 100 years later. So that brings up the question if the first humans that existed when the world was created had a clearer and more accurate knowledge of where we came from, or did the humans who lived thousands from when the world began develop a more accurate knowledge of how creation began, well after the belief in a God was commonly established among the people and they started to lose their interest in believing in him? It would be more logical to consider that earlier civilization had a more accurate understanding of our origins, as they were the ones who directly experienced the beginning of creation. This is similar to how adults 40 and over have a recollection of life before the widespread use of cell phones, while our children, who have never witnessed such a time, cannot fully comprehend it. Therefore, it would be difficult to believe that we don't have any acknowledgement or records of a significant rate of adaptation of our species prior to Charles Darwin's theory of evolution. Therefore, for this to be logical, we would have to have come into existence instantaneously, as this would explain our lack of awareness regarding our evolution into its current form. Ironically enough, this notion takes us right back to the original creation story as described in the Bible. Our thoughts are what form the method of how we think, and it systematically formulates to every one of our beliefs. We only know what we know, and we don't know anything that we haven't thought of before, which means that we can't believe anything that is contradictory towards the way that we think, establishing a system of our beliefs. Historically, this understanding led to the realization that to separate people from God, an alternative narrative of human creation had to be devised to cover up any evidence pointing back to him. So to wrap up the first part of this podcast, let's revisit the timeless question: which came first, the chicken or the egg? The answer, of course, is the chicken, because not only without the chicken, the egg couldn't hatch, but also without the chicken, the egg couldn't have existed either. And that chicken was a creation of God. And this takes me to my next segment, explaining how we were created. The Big Bang Theory explains a scientific hypothesis of how the universe began. It is the idea that the universe was created through an explosion of space and energy. But what evolutionists and scientists find it hard to explain is where this energy comes from, because each answer only leads to another question, causing an endless paradox of questions that never explains what energy actually is. The Bible not only describes that the energy that created the world comes from God, but it also says that it is God. And not only that, it goes on to give the first illustration of how the world looks, all the way back to when men still thought the world was flat. For example, as Isaiah 40:22 says, it is he who sits above the circle of the earth, and its inhabitants are like grasshoppers. The Bible stated that the earth was round long before Plato or Aristotle did. And in Job 26:7, it says that he stretches out the north over the empty place and hangeth the earth upon nothing. Meaning that the Bible stated that the earth floated long before we ever knew what gravity was, or that it keeps the earth in orbit around the sun. So not only does the Bible give us an accurate depiction of the science that surrounds us, but if you listen closely, you will hear that science also gives a clear and accurate depiction of the existence of our God. In 1843, Julius Robert Mayer, a German physiologist and a team of prominent physicists, was credited with defining the principle of energy conservation, which states that energy can neither be created nor destroyed, but rather only transferred or transformed from one form to another. Albert Einstein, which is believed to be the greatest physicist that ever lived, agreed with that notion, that energy has always existed. It was later established as the first law of thermodynamics, which is listed by the EIA on the U.S. Energy Information. And ironically enough, the Bible describes God and energy as being one and the same when he was referred to as El Shaddai, which identifies him as all-powerful. This not only describes God as being the source of where energy comes from, but it means that he is energy itself. And that causes the first rule of thermodynamics to give scientific proof that not only God is truly the creator of the universe, but because it states that energy has always existed, it gives scientific evidence for the first time that he is eternal with no beginning and no end. This is what led me to believe that science is not more accurate than the word of God, but it's only when science is right, it gives a more natural evidence of the existence of our God. So now by understanding that God created you, you can see that believing and following him is more than just a religious or Christian belief, but it is scientific evidence that he is the source that gives life meaning. And the people who feel lost and powerless are the ones who don't know how they got here or who created them. Everything in your entire existence circles around the reason why you were created. And the only one who knows that reason is the one true God that created you. So I'm here to tell you, if you ever felt like your value is less than everyone else's, or if you felt like you don't matter, or that life has no meaning, I'm here to tell you, you have it all wrong. You are the most important person in this world. And if you ever felt like your life is over, or that you have no reason to live, I'm here to tell you that there is something more out there than you actually realize. Knowing that God created you is just the beginning. Before long, it will change the way that you see everything. Knowing who created you is only the beginning of the path that leads to why you are here. Everything that was created with a purpose. And on the next podcast, I'm going to tell you what happened when God spoke directly to me and told me what our purpose is. And I have to tell you, it was by far the greatest thing I ever heard. I will reveal what he said next. So like this podcast, sign up down below and click on the icon to get notifications of when the next podcast airs. I guarantee you, you don't want to miss it. It is entitled The Best Thing You Will Ever Hear, and I promise you, it's going to blow you away.